So Celine, my sister, is here again today, and she'll add her 2 cents. Good morning, everybody. We have a lot to cover today, a lot of different things. Today the whole world is focused on the crisis here, and they're focused not gluing to the screens, the television, all the news items. They're focused on this region with prayer and fasting. And that's a marvelous thing, when the whole world is coming together, praying and fasting for peace. Prayer is very powerful, and I have great respect for many atheists and agnostics who are among us, also here on the live stream, and people with whom I work each day. And I know they will allow me to say these words about prayer. Prayer and fasting are so powerful. We have no idea of the impact of one person and one person praying. I want to tell you a story. There was a teenage girl once, and she was very concerned for a person who was going to be executed from their town, their region, their area, maybe their village, because he had committed a triple homicide. We're talking back in the late 1800s. And she had an extraordinary prayer life. She was very blessed, and she was a little child, to be a soul that was so open and tender before God. And she even wrote in her diary that even though this particular person, it was known, and they didn't have WhatsApp to say these things, it's a village, that this person was so hardened in their heart that even that was the fact that this person would repent before this person would be executed. And the person went up on the gallows. It was a hanging. And he asked the priest for the crucifix, and he kissed the crucifix 3 times. He had interiorly repented. His hardness was broken. And today, this day of fasting and prayer is amazing. Amazing gesture of the whole world. And there are many gestures. There are many people preparing care packages, sending donations, doing many good things. But prayer and fasting is a very powerful message for today. And that little girl, her name was Therese. And she died very young. She was only 24. But she gave us such a teaching about God's mercy and His love that she was declared doctor of the church, which means, doctor meaning, I don't know what word we have in English that matches that. It's not medical doctor, but it's somebody in Spanish and in the Latin languages and the Romance languages, we have the word doctor, which means learned, brilliant, insight. Like if we had the same categories for science, Einstein would be a doctor of science or a doctor of physics, in the sense that he had such an incredible command of the field. And there's less than 50 doctors in the history of the church, doctors of the church in that sense theologically, and Therese is one of them. And I know my sister has a great devotion to Therese, and yesterday Pope Francis just brought out a beautiful writing appreciating her contribution to insight in the spiritual life and her simplicity and love of God. I don't know, Céline, what you want to, if you want to say anything about Saint Therese, because you even...
I think, that the beauty of Saint Therese is her simplicity. She was such a beautiful person in her heart and in her attitudes. And talking about prayer, I think there's also this expression that prayer is a glance of love from the heart. And oftentimes we learn that glance also here in nature. As you look around you, the beauty of nature speaks of the Lord. And I think that is something that she had as a child, and loved to look at the stars, and once saw, like as if her name was written there with the stars. She gazed so much at the sky and at all of nature. I remember that growing up, my mother cultivated her flower garden, and if we were out there early in the morning, she'd say, look at the beautiful sunrise, see how good God is to us. And I think when we know we're made in God's image and likeness, and God actually says in the narrative of creation, he looks at everything and it was very good. So I think today we can ask the Lord to help us to take our eyes off the cell phone or off any other distractions we may have, and that we may look around us and say, look how good God is. Look at the beauty of a little flower. Look at the beauty of the sky. Look at all creation and see the hand of God. On a day of fasting and prayer, it's great to combine it with this contemplation of nature, so we can have peace in our hearts. When we fast, it's almost like we take the reins back in our own hands. Instead of letting our passions guide our life and our longings and our cravings for food, for pleasure, we're saying to ourselves, wait, there is something deeper, there's something greater that I need to focus on. And we become more like God, who made us in his image. We learn to take back our freedom and not be enslaved to material things or pleasures or the brokenness of our own nature. So to enjoy today as we all make this effort to thank God for his blessings and to ask for his blessing on those who are suffering right now. And our prayers will reach them, and you will be standing there by the bedside of somebody who is dying. You will be comforting a little child who is alone and is suffering. You will be renewing the world with your gaze of love and gratitude, of discernment of God's presence in your life and God's love. God bless you.
And then you were going to say something about the Psalm, Céline, about the heavens proclaim the glory of God, and the firmament announces him.
His handiwork.
The firmament announces his handiwork.
Day pours out day, the word to day, and night to night imparts knowledge. Not a word, not a discourse whose voice is not heard. Through all the earth their voice resounds, and to the ends of the world their message.
And what number is this Psalm, Céline, so people can go back and look at their
19.
books? Psalm 19. So this is also a beautiful thing, prayer and fasting. It's good to have good things for prayer. And actually, these links could be helpful for you to get into it today, to the link to the readings of the day. The readings of today are a little bit hard in a way. But I want to go back, before I go there, into another point, another gesture. The whole world is gathering together in their hearts and minds to pray for the people of this land who are suffering so much. Then there are also individual gestures that are outstanding. And I'm incredibly struck by, I think everybody is, by our patriarch, Pier Battista Pizzaballa, who was recently made cardinal. And he offered himself in exchange for the children that are held hostage in Gaza, that they would be released. This is an extraordinary gesture. It's like throwing a bomb into an ocean of hatred It's setting up a complete other paradigm. It's a sun rising in the background of violence and hatred. To say, I am ready to give my life to release the children. And actually, this is not a surprising thing. It's surprising in a way, of course, in the discourse and in the logic of our times. But this is not unique. This has happened many times before. And one time that's very familiar to us is the story of Maximilian Kolbe. You often hear me talking about him. And he's one of the people that impressed me most, and he's from our time. He died maybe 14 years before I was born in a concentration camp in Auschwitz, and he gave his life voluntarily to replace another prisoner who was going to be executed. The 10th, there were 10 called out as a punishment on the camp that one man had escaped from the camp. It was a horrendous scenario. And he stepped forward completely against the rules, and he offered his life. But I also think of more hidden cases, like he was hidden as well. Only the people in the camp knew it first, but now the whole world knows about it. It's amazing how things we do, no matter how private, whether good or bad, they will be completely public eventually. The whole world will know. But there are also lots of hidden cases that very few people know about, although a couple of them have been canonized in the recent decades. And they're mothers who forego operations that would be life-saving for them so that their child in the womb can come to term and be born. And it's heroic charity. It's laying down our lives for others. And it happens in many other ways. The firemen running into the Twin Towers on 9/11. And I was there in New York at that time. And everybody, the whole world was stunned by that generosity, that readiness, that freedom to be able to go to save a life, even though my own life would be put at risk. So this is why today prayer is very important in fasting, that we realign our lives. If the heavens proclaim the glory of God, what should human beings do? If stars that are inanimate and trees and birds and rainbows proclaim God's glory, how much more glory should come from the heart of the human being? God's glory should be reflected there. We were made in His image and likeness. If you need a little help also for the prayer, have your scripture at hand, but I also put in the link for the letter that Pope Francis published the day before yesterday on confidence in God's mercy. That's the title of the letter, and it's a reflection on the life of Saint Therese and her attitudes and her effectiveness in prayer because of God's bounty. So there's a great motivation for us. I love the way Céline commented about combining the contemplation of nature with prayer and fasting. And about fasting, you know, some people think it's just bread or just water or don't eat anything, like Yom Kippur or like Ramadan. But there are many ways to get to fasting. And Céline really mentioned that because it's about reestablishing our freedom. And therefore, it's putting our spirit above our bodily needs. But the important thing is kindness, because if we fast all day and we're grouchy and grumpy and harsh with the spouse, with the child, with the parent, with the neighbor, with the sibling, then that's very poor fasting. And there's a lot of instruction in the prophets about fasting. They even say, is that the kind of fasting I want? No, I want you to give alms. And this is also mentioned today in the readings, the giving of alms. I think we leave it like that for today, people. We spent a little bit more talking about concrete people who have made major gestures, and the whole world today united in prayer. Peace is needed here. There were a few moments last night and this morning there were no planes in the air. It was an incredibly beautiful feeling of silence, of peace. And let us hope today that this prayer and fasting that you do, you have the power in your hands, and God listens to prayer. May you be blessed today. We'll do our little famous selfie moment. Come on, camera. There we go.
God bless you. Have a joyful day of fasting and prayer.
A joyful day of fasting and prayer. Normally people wouldn't think about that. They're scared of fasting and prayer. Why is it joyful?
Because we're focused on the Lord, and He fills our hearts with joy more than all the things we might crave for.
People, God bless you. See you later, alligators.